So I'm sitting here grinding my free-to-play account here for the HH Gaming free-to-play competition, and I see that HellHades over on the Fateless channel has dropped a video where it says finally leaking the prototype 2.0 and first 3D champion. So I want to showcase this here on my channel and then give you my thoughts as somebody who wasn't involved in this specifically, but I am involved in the inner workings there, being part of the Fateless team. And you know it's going to be a good one because look at that. The likes are rolling in on the bottom there and there's no dislikes. 127 to 0. By the way, I've got a plugin that allows me to see the dislikes even though YouTube disabled them, which I hardcore disagreed with. But we've got it there. It's rolling at a 100% like rate so far. But yeah, as we start this, I can give you a little bit of an internal perspective with the Fateless team. So when you're working on a project that's going to be for a game with a budget in the multi-millions of dollars, and you've got hundreds of champions you're trying to produce, and you're trying to do the coding and the software engineering and the artwork and the stage design and all of the different terms and the economy and the things you're going to design in a game, there is meetings happening all day, every day in different directions with different people in them. For example, just today, I've been in 2 different meetings with Fateless and HellHades wasn't in either one. He's probably been in 2 or 3 meetings with Fateless and I wasn't in any of those. And then about once a week, we all meet up, we get on the same page, and then we trust each other to go in their separate directions and get their work done that week. So there's just too much going on for everybody to be in every meeting when you've got like 30 or 40 people working on a project. But okay, let's zoom in as far as we can and let's see what's going on. A lot of this may even be a leak to me personally because like I said, we're in different areas there at Fateless, and then I'll give you my reaction as somebody who's actually in the internal team.
Hey guys, this is Simon from Fateless. Damn, this is going to be an absolute banger of a video. We're going to go through Prototype 2.0 for our first level build in Fateless. If you watch this video to the end, you're also going to see the first 3D render of a character that we've had built. It's actually going to be a common character, but don't fear, it's going to still be a cool looking chick. We're going to go through some different level designs. We're going to go through how we've got to the place we've got. And I've even been doing some training on Unity so I can take you on a flyby through our first level. You might remember I actually showed you a video probably 6 weeks ago where we showed the first prototype.
Now this one I definitely seen
some of what
internally.
They call white boxing, which is almost like a, I don't know, almost like a building block for what we've now got. We're moving up through the gears now. It's still not a finished model. There's still a whole bunch of stuff which we're looking to refine, but it looks pretty damn sweet already. Before we get into it, I do want to call out a couple of ways that you can support Fateless if you want to. We do have a Patreon page where you can basically get yourself some exclusive merch from being patrons. We've actually got 267 people supporting right now, and we thank you all. I'll put links to this down below.
Now this I actually can give a little bit of context on because I do help run the Patreon. This is a lot of fun and we do a lot of really cool things to interact with the different Patreons that we super appreciate supporting our project. We try to do things like meetups where somebody from the team will jump in a voice chat and interact with the people in Patreon. And one thing, I can't guarantee this, but one thing we're trying to theory craft to do in the future is to have our weekly Fateless podcast open to our Patreons to be there as live viewers that can chat with us and be in a private chat to ask questions or interact with us actually while we're there doing the Fateless podcast. So yeah, definitely check that out and see if it's something that would make sense for you. We super appreciate the Patreons, and support is never expected but always appreciated.
So we've also got just a straight merch store now with some pretty damn sweet stuff. We got these like gaming blankets. Honestly, it's the most insanely cool piece of merch I've ever received. So you can see someone sporting it here. Hoodies, tops, all that type of stuff. Again, I'll link that down below. And if you just want to get involved in the conversation, you can come to the Fateless Discord. We've got like nearly 6,000 people in here. They're dropping ideas. They're kind of like giving us feelers really for, is this the right type of direction for things in our game? Or here's a great idea to put into your game. Or it might just be, we want to come and we want to play poker with you once a month. All of those things happen on our Discord. So
Yeah, we host a poker tournament once a month, and we usually get like 80 to 100 people there hanging out in voice chat, playing some cards. There is no money at stake. It's completely free to play, but what we do is we give away prizes to some of the high winners where you might be able to win one of these like blankets or Fateless type merch, and it's free to play opportunity to interact with some people in the community and possibly win some prizes. And then like you said, we do collect all of the feedback and kind of organize it into documents, and then we react to it on the Fateless channel and discuss it with all of the feedback we've received from the community. So definitely amazing. Shout outs here from HellHades.
Okay, then let's get into the juicy stuff. So let's go through the first level build. What were we thinking? You know, what was the direction that we wanted to take? And yeah, and this is kind of like some of the origin images. You know, we were kind of like looking at a reference from ArtStation, which was really cool. It's like, how do we build that into a kind of vibe that we want to go for? We're almost thinking kind of almost underworldy or certainly a kind of like dark environment, probably on the way to fight a boss encounter. So that's the type of vibe we were going for. And you can see a whole bunch of images here which kind of like led the artistic direction. And you can actually see in our build, we've got the kind of like skull in the back. You've got this kind of like...
Now that looks super cool. I personally, like as a Diablo player and someone who came from that universe, I was a content creator for Diablo years ago. I love this aesthetic right here. The medieval stone look with torches and darkness and dark fantasy. This looks absolutely amazing. This is the kind of game that I would want to develop and work on personally. This is definitely the aesthetic. Loving to see this right here. This is actually the first time that I've personally seen this specific image.
Pathway that you walk through. I will take you on a flyby through this so you can kind of see it in detail, but you can see how the kind of like imagery is starting to come to life. And obviously with any of these levels that you build, you want things on the level that just kind of like catch your eye or make the level feel epic. Make it feel like you're really in an environment. So we start to do some work around statues that could go in, some kind of like symbolic stone pieces. We wanted to kind of get a feel for, you know, how do we want the environment to look? How do we want the brickwork to look? You're going to see rocks later, which got better and better as the weeks have gone on. And we kind of then moved it into, okay, do we want almost like gargoyle type statues when you get to the throne room, you know, against the big bad, against the boss that you're going to be fighting? And they start to play around with just kind of like different design features at Magic Media. Then over the last few weeks, these have been iterated on. So, you know, we started to...
If you're a viewer of my channel, you might not know what he means by Magic Media. Magic Media is going to be the company that we're partnering with to help us develop the game. Instead of us needing to hire 50 employees internally here at Fateless, what we did is we partnered up with Magic Media, who has the capability to really ramp up and do as much production as we would need to help code our game and develop our game and get everything kind of sorted out to really bring our vision to life. So Magic Media is kind of partnered with Fateless as a developer.
We improve them. We start to get designs of, well, what about if some of the statues are almost defaced? And I'll show you a couple of close-ups of those shortly. We started to look at the actual skull look, and it's like, well, could we make it almost feel more like it's part of the mountain rather than a sort of standalone thing, but still have that same sort of presence in the map? Some interesting kind of like, almost like these are some ancient ruins as part of our maps as well. And then it's like, how do they look? How are we going to kind of feature those in? So all of these different kind of little bits of design, they don't necessarily all get into the final version, but it's just kind of like creative juices being kind of like pushed around really to create the kind of final designs. And then we were looking at, you know, if we want to light the environment, it's like, how much lighting do we want? We want it to be quite a dark setting. And initially in Unity, you kind of get these kind of like, I guess, assets that you can kind of pull in. And we want to say, well, how do we bring those to life in a more unique way? We didn't end up going with these kind of like final designs, but it was just a bit of a vibe around, you know, what direction do we want to take? Actually, we might use these in a different level design. So let's take you in. This is kind of like, you know, here's the level. Obviously, when you're actually fighting in the level, you'd have your units, you know, probably something like an angle view like this, and you'd be fighting a wave. You then run onto the next section, and then you'd be fighting another wave, you know, in the right type of, let's get you a better view. Yeah, the right type of angle. So you can kind of get a vibe of what that would look like. Giving you the kind of full level in all its glory. Bit of a flyby. Here's some of the statues. This one's one that's been kind of like crumbling down. Still a lot of work to be done around the kind of stones around the outside, but just gives you a good feel for what we're looking at here.
Yeah, and quickly, I did want to talk about, it's a hard line for us to walk there at Fateless because we want to show you as much as possible and bring you along on the journey with us. But then when we show things like this, it's important to keep in mind that it's not polished. It's not ready for release. We're still internally working on things. And when the game actually comes out, it's going to look even better. It's going to get fine-tuned, and it's really going to get optimized for release. So we're trying to bring the community along for the journey and leak things to you. But just keep that in mind that you're not seeing like final production assets.
Level of detail that goes into some of these different assets that we pulled together. Really, really cool artwork, I think. And then you get into the cave mouth, or I guess the skull's mouth, as you kind of come through here. Different form of lighting, really cool kind of visual effects. We've got updated rocks coming in. I'm going to show you those in a minute. The rocks are actually very cool. And then you kind of get to this throne room where you're going to fight the boss. And here, as I say, we kind of got these more enhanced version statues. I can actually take you on a bit of a fly out here to really have a look at what this setting would feel like in the game environment.
Now, I actually love this because you'll see a lot of stages in games like this where they have kind of like that standard thing you would expect with wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. But a lot of times it's just 3 of the same tile set. I love this where it's like a 2 and a 1 thing, where it's like wave 1 and wave 2 is going to be your normal different mobs that you have to fight. Then that final stage is going to be a little bit different. That final wave, you've either got a boss or a different subset of champions that are different from the first 2 waves, and you really progress into that final throne of destruction kind of room that he's got right here. So I'm loving seeing this for sure.
Loads of detail here, actually. There's like loads that's going on. And this is, as I say, I think they call it green boxing at this stage. So, or is it grey boxing? It's not the final completed version, but we're kind of moving more and more in that direction with every week, honestly. So we then work with the art team, and they start, we're starting to call out areas where we need to get enhancements or improvements, or they're basically sharing with us things which they're already looking to improve. And, it's almost like going through some of the finer details now. Let's make sure that the flooring feels more realistic. You have this battle between realism and polygon counting, because you actually don't want it to run really slow and sluggish on slightly older devices. So you kind of have to have this play around quality while still keeping polygon counts lower, which is interesting in itself. And yeah, basically working on improving and just giving a better feel for some of these assets that we've got on the level. Having a more of a grand feel as you go through that kind of like cave mouth. And in fact, we were shown some new bricks today. It's like, right, we're going to update some of the bricks with these, which have been worked on. We're going to update the kind of braziers with this type of feel. And yeah, just give it a bit of a sexier feel in the map. And then basically they then play around with lighting. Do we want it to feel more dramatic to be going into the kind of like cave mouth, or are we comfortable as it is? We have these discussions. We have 2 art meetings a week with Magic Media where we basically work through these different type of conversations. We then have the design team sort of start to work on some of the finer details. Now, when you're playing these games, you don't notice it at all. Okay, you just don't. I played these games for ages, and unfortunately, the amount of work that goes into some of the, what you might call, just like the bare bones of the level, it's crazy. This is going to be the upgraded versions of rocks on our level. So at the moment, you can kind of see, I don't know, they've got this kind of textured feel. Doesn't quite feel realistic, I would say. Whereas the upgraded versions still a fairly low poly count, but a much better visual. So that's going to go into our next upgrade to the prototype real soon. So yeah, so as you can guess, I'm pretty psyched about what they've done so far with this one. And then we start looking at ideas for...
Ooh, I really like that. That looks great. Like a desert oasis type of dark fantasy environment. This is my first time seeing this image as well. I love that.
Other levels, what do we want? And bearing in mind, we've got this kind of gods and myths feel. We're trying to get locations which suit different mythologies that we're actually honing in on. And basically what we do is we get a bunch of concept art come through, and we're looking at different concepts for different locations and how we can kind of play those in.
And my first time seeing some of these as well. Yeah, loving the general aesthetic of all these locations. Yeah, amazing.
There's also some things which we're bringing, which this genre has never done before, which I can't really talk about yet. But we need concept maps which kind of fit the things that we want to do to make it really interesting. And also, you want this kind of like nice variety of location. You don't just want to be in this kind of like dark, dingy worlds all the time. You want to actually go into different planes, almost like different realms, and that's something that we want to bring to life. And talking different realms, you know, we were kind of toying with, well, you know, different feel for like a hellish environment. Do we want it to be more, I guess how you would expect it to look, or do we want it to be a bit more like warped and visually impactful? You know, almost like a very different type of feel to what you've seen in other games. So, whole bunch of decisions we've got to make. But really cool ones, and yeah, the kind of like level building is in full flow. So before we close off the video, I did promise you that you would see a first character kind of like taken through to 3D. Still with some refinement to do, but getting pretty damn close. So I thought I'd just take you through the way we're working with Magic Media and how this stuff works. We do have Dane, who is our kind of like art director from the Fateless side. If you did not already check out Dane's video talking through his background, the way he works, you should check it out. It's actually super cool. Right, so here's an idea of when the concept art comes through, and we're kind of like looking at different ways that we could structure this type of character. We knew that it was going to be an archer. It's going to be a common type hero in our game, and we kind of like walk through various different concepts for the character before it even goes into any sort of engine. This is all just kind of like 2D work. It then gets taken into a proxy mesh, which is kind of like a 3D test, if you like. And we're looking at proportions. We're looking at the way it's going to be rigged. And at this stage, we're just kind of like, does it feel like it's going to fit what we originally thought from the concept work? After that, we start to get some proper iteration, some proper design put into it. And then it's like a to and fro of kind of like feedback session. Are there areas that we'd like to change? Do the materials feel right? Does the character feel epic enough? Are the proportions looking good? We then potentially, after those sort of conversations, it might go back to the team to be like, right, well, let's look at different ways to kind of like skin the same character, if you like. So, you know, do we want to try different textures? Do we want to try different colorings? Do we want to try slightly different builds? And eventually, once we get everything signed off and approved, it then gets baked down and put into a 3D model. So this is the same character from that concept now taken into 3D. And here we see our first common archer coming through. Obviously, at this point, we haven't got the character in the kind of like Unity game mode. So we don't have the posing, which makes a massive difference, actually. We don't have the posing, which kind of like brings that epic feel yet. So that will come really soon. And also, we haven't added like things like the facial expressions and stuff like that. So she looks just proper sour at the moment, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I still think it's really cool. The detailing is really nice. And you start to now see that kind of like end-to-end process of a character in action. And I do have a nice kind of like just a little playthrough here. As I say, she could do with a smile. But other than that, I'm really pleased with what we've got. And I'm really pleased with some of the detailing coming through.
Yeah, I love that lighting and the way it looks.
So that's going to be it for this video.
But yeah, and I did see some of this like a couple days ago. We'll start to see things shared from other people's meetings and stuff. But yeah, like you said, with Dane, he's kind of our art director in our internal Fateless team that works a lot with Magic Media, and we kind of trust him to keep the art direction related to Magic Media about some of the thoughts we're having at Fateless. And it's really cool to finally see something in 3D. And like he said, it's gonna look a lot better when this champion's moving around and shooting its arrow and bring its face to life and it's actually on the battlefield. It won't just look like a stiff pose. It'll look a lot better once it's actually in motion in the game and really optimized for release. But this is awesome to see this like first kind of look of what's coming down the pipeline.
Hope you enjoyed it. As you can see, the prototype 2.0 is in full flow, and we've got tons being done literally on a day-to-day basis with Magic Media. And actually from this moment on, we start to ramp up character design as well as level design, because we're looking at the next kind of like 10 characters at a time. We've actually got quite a high level of engagement with the art team, because we go through these kind of like 2-week sprints now of production, which is very cool. Anyway, I've been Simon from Fateless. Have yourself a great week. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, there you have it. And then you can see right there, it's recommending the weekly podcast I was talking about, where we do different topics. And that one there was talking about 1 year in since the concept of Fateless. What have we learned? What's been the challenges? What's been the mistakes? And just kind of giving some perspective there from the people that have been there since the start. I actually haven't been. I've only been in Fateless a few months. But those three right there, in Dan and Sham and Simon, or HellHades, they've been there since the very inception. So that episode was just kind of me talking them through, trying to get some of their opinions out over this last year in setting up Fateless. So yeah, it's been super exciting. I'm loving being part of the team. And this is always amazing when HellHades gives us a leaked video of some of the new stuff that's really coming through the pipeline. So I will link to the Fateless YouTube channel down below. That way you can follow it on your end and see this stuff as soon as possible. But when it's a big one like this, I thought it would be worth giving my perspective and reacting to it here on the channel. So I appreciate all of you. Have a good rest of your day. I'll see you soon in the next video. Peace.